Again, Nathaniel Wiggins, I'm going to pull up some video if I can from Huddle, but Nathaniel Wiggins, 6'2", 170 pounds from Westlake High School, not the only player from Atlanta, Georgia, Westlake High School, especially not the only cornerback, Big Al.
Yeah, without a doubt. Look, this guy's a good get. He's a good pickup. He's somebody Clemson was, semi-involved with, I think, early on in the process. I don't know that either team or either side of that thought it was going to be a match, and it turns out late. LSU's went down the toilet. Their season was terrible. There's a lot of allegations going on at LSU. It's just not a really good situation right now. And I think Wiggins was looking elsewhere. Clemson needed a big-time corner. Nyland Green, who was their target all year, went to Georgia. And this was kind of the opportunity. I think the wheels were probably in motion pretty fast for this one. He flips, 6'2", rangy cornerback from Westlake. And, I mean, that's kind of the ones that they like to work with. I think that's a similar size maybe to a Trayvon Mullen or somebody when he came out. So he's got to put on some weight. But that's not a bad thing necessarily. Real good athlete. I think he's known mostly for playing receiver, actually, in high school. So somebody who's going to have some ball skills, which is great to have at a cornerback. It's something I like. I love it when they get their hands on it. They actually keep it and pick it off. So it's going to be a fun thing. I think it's a fantastic pickup for Clemson late in the game. Mike Reed seems to swing somebody kind of at the last hour almost every year. People gripe about cornerback recruiting and late gets, but he always seems to pull a rabbit out of the hat.
I'm going to throw up some Huddle video that he's uploaded. This is mid-season highlights he uploaded to Huddle October 24th. So check that out there. But again, guy, he is listed, like I said, 170, which to me, that's a little, that may be why he's not a 5-star, because he's got the height, 6'2", 170. Really, if you look at AJ Terrell's of the world, he joined the Falcons at about 190, 194 is what he's listed at right now. So AJ Terrell has a little bit more weight on him than what this Wiggins has coming out of high school. But again, coming out of high school versus going into the NFL, big difference. But this is a guy who is familiar with AJ Terrell. He's also familiar with another commitment from Dakari Collins, I believe. And so they've got guys that have been at that high school, and it's kind of like a pipeline by now, basically, from that high school. So another one that was really interesting, because Clemson was going after Nyland Green, and they were trying to get him, and Nyland Green chose Georgia on December 8th. And then 4 days later, Clemson gets Nathaniel Wiggins. He was committed to LSU for 4 months. So what do you think? I mean, does that kind of show that Wiggins was basically just waiting for that situation to open up for him? I mean, you've been committed to the LSU Tigers. I mean, I think it's a perfect storm too, because you've got Ed Orgeron, who's really screwing up everything over there. Mm-hmm. Talk about a one-hit wonder. We made fun of him for being it, and now he is living it out to the max of the one-hit wonders over there. But within 4 days, it speaks to the power of the paw, if people say, in the recruiting world. But it speaks to Clemson and the success they've had in recruiting and the ability to get players that they need even late. You got Travis Etienne, a guy who flipped Texas A&M to Clemson. You got Malcolm Green, LSU to Clemson. Now Nate Wiggins, LSU to Clemson. Does it surprise you that within 4 days Clemson had somebody else?
It doesn't surprise me. It's always surprising, but it never surprises me because I've seen Clemson do this before. So it's always nice. It's always a nice surprise to open it up and be like, oh, by the way, we got our cornerback commit that we really needed. So that's awesome. It's out of nowhere. It's kind of interesting to see, but it's something Clemson's able to do. They have the clout to do it right now. They're the Clemson Tigers, like you said, power of the paw. They're winning national championships. They're in the playoff every year. That's what happens. That's why you're able to do that. Clemson usually gets its guys and it keeps its guys. And that's happened. That's happened year after year. It's something they do. Obviously we had a decommitment or two here this year, which was kind of tough. Corey Foreman and Jordan Hancock both going to be phenomenal prospects. And hey, who knows? Corey Foreman could end up back in the fold. As a matter of fact, Troy Brown gets in, asks about any comments on Corey Foreman. Look, there's a lot of pull when it comes to those Southern Cal kids. A lot of those California kids have a lot of pressure on them to stay at home. Who knows if that's the case here or not? Not all of them stay at home, as we know. But it's just one of those things. Who wins? Is it the people, pulling you in a direction? Is it, where you truly want to go? I don't really know. I think he loves Clemson. I don't think he would have committed to Clemson in the first place if he wasn't really in love with the school. So look, he's been a lot of places. A lot of people's been the leader at different times, at least in the public. So it seems like a pretty impressionable kid. Maybe a flavor of the week type thing. Who knows? But look, I'd love to have him at Clemson. If you look at that kid in his profile picture, you look at that smile, that's a Clemson man smile. So I'd love to have him over here in Death Valley for sure.
What about me, Al?
Oh, without a doubt.
If you're listening on podcast, you're probably completely clueless about that situation, but I was smiling. Clemson develops players, and I think it works out great for Corey Foreman, as you mentioned. Yep. I think they developed defensive ends for the past 50 years, really, to be honest with you. Defensive ends, defensive linemen are a staple from Clemson University and have been for many, many years. When my dad was watching as a young kid, now me, it is something that you expect from Clemson to have great defensive linemen, and they continue to have them to this day. And so that would, I would think, signal good sign for Corey Foreman. The bad sign is it is thousands of miles away. I mean, that is very difficult. I mean, you're already seeing it with Eric Gilbert on a losing team during COVID-19, wants to go home.
Yeah.
Time to go home. 5-star tight end, probably going to go back to Georgia, where we all thought he would have originally go. Was a commitment, was a target for Clemson. But that homesickness is a big deal. And when you can't just go home now FaceTime makes it a lot better, but it's not just your family. Yeah. It's your friends, it's your neighborhoods, it's your favorite restaurant. It's things like that you're going to miss a lot. And so you got to be prepared for that. And mentioned in the chat as well, Big Dave recruiting Corey Foreman is a big deal as well. Big Dave can attest to the struggles and the ups and downs that DJ has had, but DJ seems like he has fit in well and has adapted to the environment, but he also knows that he's coming up next. And I think Corey Foreman would know that as well. So these players that know that they're going to be the man the next year should be a little bit more confident, but there is that kind of first year waiting around. And maybe Corey Foreman would come in the very next season and jump guys that are juniors and seniors, but it's not always a guarantee. So there is that iffy situation. But Clemson develops players, not only defensive line, but defensive backs as well. And we see that with Mike Reed getting a first rounder in A.J. Terrell. It's a huge, huge bonus that a Westlake guy goes and gets drafted by the Falcons. You got to think that Wiggins is a guy who sees that and thinks, this could be me. I want this to be me. And okay, here they're now calling me. I'm not going to play with LSU anymore. Like I said, especially with LSU, with all the negative stuff happening with them, it just happened all perfectly. Now, would you want Clemson to have gone after him maybe earlier? Well, they went after Jordan Hancock, and Clemson's very strict with going after or over-signing players. And so they're at the point where now there would possibly be 2 oversigns. Correct me if I'm wrong, Al. If Corey Foreman and, say, another offensive tackle that we won't name names commits, then that's 2 oversigns. And so that means 2 players currently with a scholarship are going to have some difficult conversations about, hey, are you really going to get a lot of playing time? And even though they still are have another year under their belt, they may not be able to stay at Clemson, to use it, to be honest. I mean, it's a difficult conversation, but it is the truth when you're dealing with elite players that are coming in and coming out, and you're not, getting that starting job. So I don't like those difficult conversations. I'm sure Dabo doesn't like them as well, but it's still out there. It's still a possibility. But we're talking about Nate Wiggins. I think it's great for Clemson. They obviously needed that cornerback. And the cornerback really, why do they need the cornerback so bad? From what I can tell, we all think that DK is going to go. And I'm even seeing DK as being maybe a number 1 overall. I mean, not number 1 overall, but first round draft pick, excuse me. No,
you had me going there for a minute. I was like, wow.
But I'm seeing DK as like a low first rounder is what I meant to say. Like I'm talking like, in the low, high 20s, low 30s.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me to see him, slip down in the second round or something like that. But he's got good athleticism. He's got the dog in him, as people like to say. He likes to fight. He has the mentality to move on to the next play. It has the trash talking thing down a little bit. That's something a good cornerback seems to have. Mackenzie Alexander had that as well. So it's something. It's just a mentality they have. If they get beat, that's okay because they're the best and they're the best in the game, and they can make it happen on the next play. That's something that I think he's kind of getting a reputation for. I think it'll serve him well moving forward in the NFL. Hopefully, and if first round is where he goes, and kudos.